Welcome, welcome, welcome to this new video. This time I want to go over Nmap and I want to make sure that we go over a good set of basic commands and what you need to know to properly run Nmap, even if you don't know how to run Nmap, right? So, if you've been around in the industry, you know of Nmap, which is one of the most popular network scanning tool or port scanning tool out there. It is a true open source solution and it's been around since forever. You can go directly to nmap.org to download the latest versions and to um, learn more about it. You have reference guides, documentation, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the great things about Nmap, besides being open source, is that it is actively maintained. They're always coming up with new features, new patches, and new fixes. And the tool is available for Mac, Linux, and Windows. So if you use the command line interface, which is Nmap, uh, it's going to be the same interface no matter what operating system you're working from. And they do have Zenmap, which is the GUI version of Nmap. If you prefer to use it, it's pretty useful too. It's pretty much similar, but it's easier to use. I prefer using the command line because I can customize scans that I wanna use. So let me just come here and type the command. If you do just nmap and nothing else, you're gonna get the help menu, and the help menu is super useful. By no means is the complete um, guide to Nmap because it is not. If you want a complete guide, it's going to be pages and pages, or even to create a complete video of Nmap, it's going to be maybe hours and hours of information. But you don't have to be an quote unquote expert to use it. You can just get familiar with a couple of commands and you'll be able to do your job and collect the information that you want to collect. As you can see here, just by typing the command itself, it's going to show you the help menu. As you could see, the version that I have installed here is 7.93, even though the most up to date is 7.94, as you can see here. And then the menu is categorized in different sections. You have a section for target specification, you have a section for host discovery, a section for scan techniques, port and scans orders, so on and so forth. Now, you don't have to know everything to use it, right? You can just do simple scans to collect the information that you need. And let me come down here. For instance, I'm gonna do nmap, right? And I'm gonna specify my target host 172.16.5. In my case, 175. So as you could see, I am not typing anything else right here. I'm specifying my target, of course, but I'm not typing anything else other than nmap and my target. So when you do that, nmap automatically is going to use the sync scan, right? The stealth scan to initiate the session and to do what it needs to do, even if you don't specify anything. So you do it and it's going to do its magic right there. So what the sync scan is going to do is going to send sync packets to the target host. And if the target host replies with a sync ACK, is going to understand that the port is open and it's gonna scan for a predetermined set of ports that we're gonna go over that later. And it's gonna say, okay, this is the default scan, this is what I do, and these are your results. Now let's talk about this for 1 second. So I did my initial scan 175, and as you could see, I mistyped my IP address, so it couldn't be reached. But when that happens, sometimes the your targets are not responding to ICMP packets because that's what it sends as part of the discovery. So in that case, it is saying, you know what, forget about doing the initial discovery and treat the targets as if they are up and running. So it's going to start doing the port scanning instead of the host discovery. But in this case, I mistyped the the IP address of my target, but it applies the same, right? So if you do that, um, so as you could see, it is going to say, it took this, and these are the ports that I found with the default scan. And this is amazing, right? And it's going to tell you, that the port is open. And it's going to tell you the service that is running on that port. Now, why do you want to do this, right? Again, like if you know what you're doing, you know what you're doing. Like I don't have to explain this to you. Why do you need to run Nmap? But this video is like for those who are beginning in the to do networking and cybersecurity, and they're trying to understand how things work. So when you do a port scanning, you see you are like looking for ports, and something you got to keep in mind here is that when you're doing port scanning, you're going to be doing port scanning on the transport layer of the OSI model, which is the TCP and the UDP protocols. The default scan is going to run on the TCP protocol. As you can see here, there's no UDP ports, right? And I'm not scanning for that. Let me scan for another thing that I know has, I believe, let me come here, 5205. This is a Metaexplodable computer that I have. As you could see, it's all uh, defaulted to TCP. So when you do this, you are going to be generating traffic as with any other type of network scan. And that's something that you have to keep in mind. When you do the default scan for Nmap, it usually scans, a set of predetermined ports. And, it's estimated that it takes about like 65 to 70 kilobytes per scan. So just think about it. So if you're running scans on hundreds of maybe thousands of computers, you're going to be doing more and more traffic, right? So just keep that in mind. You don't want to denial of service your own network. I mean, it's unlikely that it's going to happen in a modern network, but it's possible, right? So there you go. So the other scan that you can run to get a maybe a clearer picture or more complete picture of the target is the connect scan, and you do the connect scan by doing minus st, right? So when you do that, it's going to be pretty much the same result, but in the background you're establishing a complete TCP session for the scan. So, like sometimes the results may vary depending on what you're doing, but start with the scene scan. And the scene scan, if you wanted to type the syntax, is minus S, capital S, but that's the default scan, so you don't have to type it. So you can start with that. Now, if you're looking for something specific, as you could see, the default scan did a predetermined search of open ports and it gave me the results. But if you're looking for something specific, you can specify it by typing minus P, which stands for port, and then you can type the port number, right? 170, what's that? 139 if you're looking for Windows computers, right? 130, oh, shoot. 139, come on. But when you do that, some of these scans are going to require you to have root privileges or admin privileges in Windows, right? And then you're going to do it, and it's going to tell you, yeah, you know what? It's right here, it's open. So, as you could see, instead of sending traffic and looking for all the ports available in one host, you can specify one specific ports or a group of specific ports if you want to. For instance, if you want to do a specify ports, let's say ports 20 to 100, anything that falls within that, right? Like well-known ports. As you could see, it scanned that and it shows that, let's see, what do we have here? Port is up, 81 scan ports, and all these are in ignore state. So let me do that on made exploitable. And we should have similar or different resources. What is it showing there? Scan, blah, 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 81 port scan. And not shown 81 ports. So you can specify what you are looking for. Now, the other thing I want to mention is that you can also look for UDP ports, not only TCP. Remember, the default scan is going to be looking um, for TCP, but if you want to do UDP, and there are many reasons why you would like to use um, UDP, you would use Nmap minus SU that stands for UDP, and then you specify the specific target. Let's see. Now, if there is any UDP ports running in there, it is going to show you what they are, and then you're going to be able to collect the information that you need. Now, why would you do that? I believe that I forgot to mention this before. I got, of course, when I was talking about this before. I'm going to let this run for 1 second. It's going to take some time because it's going to scan a whole bunch of UDP ports, but let me come down here. So, oh, I believe I mentioned this. So when you are doing security, or if you're a network administrator, or if you're a pen tester, or if you want to see how things are working, uh, this is one of the first things you're going to do. You're going to find out what ports are open and what services are associated to that port, or what service that port is associated with, and then you're going to find out the version of that service to see if it has any vulnerabilities, right? And I have maybe 2 or 3 videos on understanding vulnerabilities and running a vulnerability assessment tool. And once you have the vulnerability, obviously you want to patch it and mitigate the vulnerability. If you're doing a pen testing, you're going to try to exploit the vulnerability. Now, this is not going to tell you much, right? But it's something that you're going to be using as a starting point. So let me come here. This UDP scan is going to take too long, so I'm going to pause this thing. Otherwise, it's going to actually I'm going to cancel it. Otherwise, it's going to take forever. It's going to slow down the video. But something that you can keep in mind is that you can also export the results of your scan to a file. So let me come down here. And if we go down somewhere in here, you are going to see it. Okay, minus O is OS detection. So we're going to talk about it in 1 minute. The output. So you can export the results to a file, and then you can grab that file to find or search for something specific. And as you could see, the if you do ON is the normal export. You can export with OX to XML, or you could do OG to make it greppable, right? So let me come back to this. No, I'm gonna do this. My 205. No, I'm not doing UDP. UDP takes forever. So I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna do minus ON. No, actually it's OG, which I'm gonna make it greppable, and I'm gonna call this host one, right? And I'm gonna hit enter. And there you go. Now, if I do cat host one, you're gonna see that it's the same information that I have here, but in a grabbable format. So when you do that, you could do cat host one grab, and you're gonna be looking for whatever you're gonna be looking for. Let's say that you want to do 21. And you see, as you could see, it is going to be highlighted, or you can be more specific and you could do, specifically what you're looking for. And there you go. So this is one of the cool features that you could use with Nmap, which I like very much, though, especially when you're running large um, scans in a network. I mean, like you want to save that somewhere. The other cool feature that you can use, let me come back here, is that you can attempt to detect the operating system on your target. So if you come down here, if we go to this section, as you could see, OS detection, you could use the minus capital O to attempt to detect that. So let me come here. And a lot of these commands require root privilege. So not all Nmap commands require that, but a lot of them do. So switch O is good, but it is not something that you really want to rely on because it is inconsistent. As you could see, it detects this as Linux 2.6x, which it just happens to be accurate this time around. But if you scan other systems, for instance, like a Windows machine, it's going to try to detect the operating system, uh, and it may or it may not be accurate in the results that it gives you. In this case, it is indeed a Windows 10 computer, but I'm telling you, this is my lab environment where everything is working and is fine. When you are in a busy network, that's not going to be the case. So don't rely on Nmap to detect the operating system. But it's a good feature to have, right? Like it's better to start collecting information than not doing that. The other function that is super useful is Nmap minus capital A. What that's gonna do for you is gonna try to detect the version of the services running on the remote host. And again, that is very, very useful because you may have some services running on a host, and depending on the version of the service, it may or it may not have known vulnerabilities. So that's something that is super useful if you are in security or if you are a network administrator. As you can see here, it is showing me that it's running SMB2 on my host, and it's giving me that, the version of the services. So this is very useful information. Why? Let me go back to my made exploitable machine. Now, if I do this to learn the service version on a vulnerable host, like in this case, Metasploitable, it is going to tell you the version of the services running, and then you can do your research and see if there's any known vulnerabilities out there, right? Like if you do a research and you find, or you go for let's do this, uh, if you do like VSTP vulnerability, that's going to show you that there are known vulnerabilities and exploits for that vulnerability. So again, like I know this is vulnerable because it's metasploitable, right? So like I know that, but if you're doing this as for as an assessment, or any type of uh, other engagement, that's going to provide information, useful information to you to use. And lastly, the last thing I want to show you in this video, I believe that I'm already past 20 minutes, which is kind of crazy, is that you can use the Nmap scripts, right? So Nmap scripts are, as you can imagine, scripts that are going to carry a specific function for you. And if you are in Linux, they are located in the user directory, and then we have the in share Nmap script. So you're going to find scripts to do a whole bunch of things. I believe there are over, I don't know how many. I thought that it was going to be over 100, but this looks more than 100 scripts. And depending on what you're looking for, there are scripts already configured for you to use them. So let me come here. Let's say that I want to look for a vulnerability. So here it is, right? Or you're looking to see the version of SMB. If you're doing SMB enumerations, you can enumerate processes. As you could see right here, I'm not going to read this for you, but this is going to make your life easier. And you can even do one of these. I created a video for this. One of these scripts is to do vulnerability scanning, right? So this is useful information. And hey, listen, it's not rocket science. The way you would do it, you would go and you would type nmap, right? And then you do uh, like dash dash and script, and then you specify the script you're looking for. Let's say, let me copy one from here. I'm gonna run this on nets on Nesta. All right, let's do this. No, not this. I want to do SMB broad. So let's try this. So if you just type that, that's what sometimes it provides information about the script. But if you do your target, that's gonna be doing its magic, right? It's gonna try to brute force, or it's gonna give you information. So you can also do nmap script, and you do help, and we don't need this, to get information about the script, and then you can see what it is supposed to do for you. So again, like, I hope this was useful to you. The video actually extended more than I would have liked, but the information was good. If you found this information useful to you, just click on the like button, subscribe to my channel. You can leave a nice comment. I know that this is, I'm going to call this basic information if you're in the industry, but if you're learning about security, if you're learning about networking, or if you're learning about how things work. I hope this was very useful to you. And again, keep practicing, keep using the command line, and the more you use it, the better you're going to get. Thanks for watching this video. Have an amazing rest of the day, and I'll talk to you in the next video.